welcome back to the Blissful Badger and my March Madness Army Showcase Showdown. Throughout this month, we're going to look at all of my armies, and I'd like you to rate these armies on 5 criteria on a scale of 1 to 10. And then at the end of the month, we're going to tally up all of the scores and see which army is the best out of my collection. So what are these criteria? 1. The paint scheme. Is my army cohesive? What level have I painted it to? Do these colors work for this army? 2. Playability. How did I go selecting models for this army? Is this a viable army on the battlefield? 3. My reason for owning it. Do I have a good justification for owning this army? 4. Theming. How much does this army fit their lore? Have I built this army to a standard that makes sense for what the army does in the lore? And 5, conversions and customization. What conversions did I make to this army? How did I make it my own? So which army are we checking out today? Today, we're looking at my Disciples of Tzeentch army. Alright, so this one's an interesting one. Once I already knew I was going to collect Age of Sigmar, I decided a 4th army wouldn't be a bad idea. So I chose Disciples of Tzeentch. And what a collection. So one of the reasons why I decided on Disciples of Tzeentch was I really liked the different colors that I would be able to paint them. And, honestly, one of the people at the game shop was going to get an Arcane Cataclysm and had the other half available for sale. That was early October of 2023, and I got that. And I was able to get one of the old Start Collecting boxes that had the chariot and the screamers and such. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a great introduction to the army. I grabbed a box of Pink Horrors off of eBay because I was able to grab a great deal. And I was like, well, now I need some blue and crimson horrors, so I eventually picked up 4 boxes of those because at the time, 2 boxes of pink horrors meant 4 boxes of blue and crimson. So there we go, I have a ton of painted blue and crimson horrors. I have the majority of a burning chariot left. I used it to make my Exalted Flamer and Herald. And I was going to make a unit of blue scribes, but they don't exist right now. Yay. I have another 10 Zangors. This kit has the most bits ever for 10 models. And everyone doesn't like them. I don't know why. They're cool. And then I have some Zangor Enlightened and some more of the mortals the Kyric Acolytes. Got to build those up. And I have another lot of old metal flamers. And I still need to get those built up because I really look forward to having some old metal ones in the army. This army also had the luck of having water marbling as my basing scheme. I wanted to do something that was wild and chaotic, and that's why I chose that basing scheme. When Spearhead was announced, I decided I needed to have a Spearhead of Disciples of Tzeentch. So I got those built up. Before that, I actually had 1,000 points painted for the introduction of 4th edition, but we haven't played any 4th edition 1,000-point games, so pivoting over to Spearhead. And again, I don't think the Zangors are that bad of a model. I think they look cool. And not only did I go with wild bases, but this army actually has an interesting color scheme to it. I mostly used speed paints for this, but I also intentionally left black out of the army. This whole army is painted without any black or pure white. I wanted it to have very vibrant colors to it. And I think it's coming out pretty nice. One of the other things that I love is all of the models that I own, even the ones that aren't built yet, already have the bases done. Until I purchase more, all of the bases for this army are already made. Which is definitely a different way of doing things for me. And this is actually one of my favorite basing schemes that I've done. As you may have noticed, there is one thing majorly missing out of this army, and that would be a Lord of Change, or a Kairos Fate Weaver. And maybe when I eventually get all of these guys built and painted, maybe one of those magical chickens will show up in the army. But until that time, I think I'm good without having that centerpiece model. As it is, I can play the Spearhead, and with how frequently I play right now, that should be enough. But in the future, perhaps one of those centerpiece models will show up. If you would like to see a full breakdown of my army list, there is a link to a spreadsheet in the description below. Subscribe if you haven't, so that you don't miss any future videos. I also want to thank my patrons and supporters for making these videos possible. And until next time, I hope you find your bit of bliss.